Nobody inside the racing world expected the silence to break like this. For months, Yamaha denied, deflected, and danced around questions about a rumored V4 project, something that went against everything they had stood for since joining MotoGP's modern era. And then, without warning, a whisper slipped out. A name appeared in the same sentence as prototype and unexpected breakthrough. A name that instantly shifted the tone across the entire paddock. Toprak Razgatlıoğlu, a rider who had once carried Yamaha's hopes with his fearless style, then walked away in frustration. A rider whose departure still left a bruise in Yamaha's corridors. And suddenly, he was the man testing a machine that wasn't supposed to exist. Not yet, not this soon, not like this. According to insiders, that test didn't just show progress. It exposed something staggering. Something Yamaha had kept hidden deeper than anyone imagined. The paddock was stunned. But the real shock came from what Toprak discovered during those first few laps. At first, it sounded like just another rumor, a quiet note buried beneath the louder MotoGP storylines. Yamaha was said to be evaluating a V4 layout, but unofficially it was considered nothing more than a concept, a side project, a what-if. But then the mood shifted. People close to Yamaha began noticing unusual movements inside the testing department. Engineers were being reassigned, simulation schedules were extended, and equipment normally used for long-term research started being packed for private track activity. Something was stirring behind the curtain. And when insiders learned that Toprak was involved, everything snapped into focus. Few riders in the world could stress test a motorcycle like he could. His brutality on the brakes, his iron control during corner entry, his explosive confidence, all of it made him a perfect candidate for exposing strengths and weaknesses that the team's current lineup couldn't uncover in the same way. But even then, nobody expected Yamaha to give him access to an early-stage prototype. The secrecy surrounding that test went far beyond normal procedure. The preparation looked like something meant to rewrite a manufacturer's identity. And Yamaha wasn't known for impulsive reinvention. Yet the moment the garage door opened that morning, it was clear this test wasn't routine. What unfolded next would leave engineers questioning everything they believed about Yamaha's technological limits. Toprak's departure from Yamaha had left an emotional scar on both sides. He wanted more acceleration, more punch, more ability to dictate straight-line duels without relying on miracles at the braking marker. Yamaha wanted loyalty to their philosophy, smooth, predictable corner speed dominance. When their paths split, it wasn't angry, it was heavy. Like two people who wanted the same outcome but couldn't agree on how to reach it. But something changed after Toprak joined BMW. He transformed. The hunger sharpened, the commitment grew fiercer. His braking became even more assertive yet more controlled. He developed new habits, new rhythm, new intuition. And the confidence he carried back into every paddock became something that drew attention even from rivals who once underestimated him. Yamaha noticed. Even before they contacted him for this test, engineers had quietly studied him throughout the season. They dissected his telemetry from the past, compared it with his current form, and concluded something unusual. Toprak was evolving faster than Yamaha's old limits. He wasn't returning to evaluate their bike. They were asking him to challenge the direction of a machine that could redefine their identity. And as he walked toward the prototype, Yamaha's technicians saw something they hadn't seen before. Toprak wasn't carrying the weight of expectation. He was carrying the freedom of a man with nothing to lose. And the moment he sat on the prototype, that freedom became the catalyst for something explosive. For decades, Yamaha held firm to their inline-4 philosophy. While Ducati, Honda, KTM, and Aprilia refined their V4 designs into powerful monsters, Yamaha insisted that their strengths came from smoothness, agility, and linear power. It was their identity, their pride. But identity can become a prison. As the grid shifted toward raw acceleration and aggressive aerodynamics, Yamaha began to feel cornered by their own legacy. The M1 struggled in the areas that mattered most. Their inline-4 charm was no longer enough to keep pace with the brutality of modern MotoGP. Behind closed doors, debates grew heated. Some engineers fought to preserve the past. Others argued that the future demanded risk. A V4 wasn't just a new engine, it was a departure from everything Yamaha had been. Months before the world heard a whisper, Yamaha secretly greenlit a prototype, a hybrid of radical engineering ideas, untested concepts, and aggressive new philosophies. Rumors suggested experiments with a revised firing order designed for torque spikes, A more compact chassis layout. Aero surfaces modeled after rival breakthroughs. Power delivery strategies Yamaha had never attempted before. This was not an evolution. It was a rebellion. And the instant the engine fired up, that rebellion roared with a tone that sounded nothing like Yamaha. Yet even that sound didn't prepare the technicians for what would happen when Toprak twisted the throttle. Observers expected a cautious start, a few warm-up laps, some gentle testing, and a gradual build-up. Instead, Toprak attacked the track. The sound of the V4 ripping down the straight was nothing like the elegant notes of Yamaha's traditional machines. This was deeper, harsher, and undeniably aggressive. The quick acceleration forced technicians to study their monitors twice, unsure whether they were seeing an error. But it wasn't an error. Toprak pushed harder, and the prototype responded with a force Yamaha had been chasing for years. Exit after exit, the bike surged forward with a punch that left the garage in stunned silence. Even before the first run ended, a realization settled. The Yamaha everyone knew was gone, and the real shock emerged as Toprak began attacking the braking zones, the place where he could change the meaning of a motorcycle. That's when the data started breaking expectations. Yamaha had one major fear. Would the V4 disrupt the stability Toprak relied on for his signature braking magic? The answer came quickly. Toprak hurled the bike into corners with a violence only he could tame. But instead of reacting nervously, the prototype planted itself with a confidence Yamaha never dreamed a V4 could achieve. The engine's revised inertia acted like an anchor, giving him a grip that matched his instincts perfectly. Lap after lap, he pushed harder. Lap after lap, the bike absorbed it without protest. Engineers exchanged looks, half excitement, half disbelief. The prototype wasn't just surviving Toprak's aggression, it was thriving under it. Some whispered that Yamaha had accidentally built a bike more suited to him than their previous inline-4 ever was. And as he returned to the garage, his face told a deeper story. He had unlocked something Yamaha didn't expect to see this early. But the real shock waited inside the data files. When the telemetry appeared, the room fell silent. Straight line speed, higher than Yamaha's recent efforts. Acceleration, comparable to certain front-running V4 machines. Corner exit stability, far better than the team's simulations predicted. Engineers checked the figures repeatedly, convinced something must be off, but every reading told the same story. The prototype had reached a performance level Yamaha hadn't touched in years. And Toprak asked for more. He requested adjustments not meant for early prototypes, changes that required confidence, because only a rider who sensed deep potential would dare request them. The electronics team worked urgently, recalibrating maps to control the aggressive power delivery. Yet they knew, if this was the starting point, then Yamaha's entire future might look different. Then Toprak made a request that shifted the direction of the whole project. Toprak asked for a setup change that contradicted the development predictions. It wasn't supposed to work, not on this early prototype, not with the current configuration. But Yamaha trusted his intuition. Once the adjustment was made, Toprak returned to the track. The lap times tightened. The bike behavior shifted sharply. The entire prototype seemed to unlock a dimension Yamaha didn't know it possessed. At that moment, high-ranking figures inside Yamaha realized something extraordinary. This wasn't just a prototype. This was a potential turning point. Conversations inside the garage became tense, urgent, strategic. Engineers debated scenarios they hadn't planned to face for another year. Team management whispered about timelines, budgets, and feasibility. Rivals watching from a distance grew uneasy. Something had changed. And the turning point came not from simulations or technical theory, but from a rider Yamaha had once let go. But the emotional twist came the moment Toprak stepped off the bike. When Toprak removed his helmet, there was no dramatic outburst, just a quiet expression that said more than any words could. But then he spoke. What he said was simple, unfiltered, and according to insiders, it spread through Yamaha like a shockwave. The message suggested that the prototype had potential far beyond expectations. Not good, not promising, something deeper, something Yamaha hadn't felt in years. The engineers who once worked with him felt the weight of his words. It reminded them of why they had built the machine in the first place. Because Yamaha needed transformation, not adjustment. Rumors spread quickly across the paddock. Suddenly, rivals started seeking information. And Yamaha's quiet project had become the most discussed secret development in motorsports. And then the final data package arrived. When Yamaha reviewed the complete data, the internal reaction bordered on disbelief. Acceleration numbers approached levels some teams had spent years refining. Corner entry stability exceeded projections. Engine behavior complemented Toprak in ways few thought possible. This wasn't just an experiment anymore. It was a viable direction. Within hours, speculation exploded. Would Yamaha fast-track the V4? Would this shape future rider market decisions? Did Toprak unknowingly escalate a project that could redefine MotoGP's competitive landscape? World SBK insiders wondered whether Yamaha might eventually shift philosophies in both paddocks. Rival MotoGP engineers questioned how fast Yamaha could industrialize such a concept. Some suggested the prototype was already more advanced than Yamaha had admitted. The racing world had been caught off guard. Yet even now, one mystery remained unanswered. Yamaha issued no major statement. Toprak remained measured in interviews, careful not to say more than aloud. But his tone gave everything away, an excitement that he couldn't fully mask. Behind closed doors, Yamaha executives debated the future. The prototype had evolved from research project to potential weapon. And the quiet acknowledgement settled. If pursued, this V4 could reshape Yamaha for the next decade. The world now watches, waiting to see whether the manufacturer who once swore loyalty to the inline-4 will embrace a new destiny, or keep this prototype locked away as a ghost of what might have been. Deep inside Yamaha's headquarters, a decision is forming. A decision that will influence riders, engineers, championships, and the identity of Yamaha's racing legacy. One secret test. One unexpected breakthrough. One rider whose instincts changed everything. And the story is far from over.